Like anybody could believe anything like that could actually be real.
I thought it was pretty awesome. I'm still waiting for my acceptance letter for Hogwarts.
But Teddiursa, it isn't a factual film. The genre of this film is fantasy. Fantasy commonly uses magic and other supernatural phenomena to attract their audiences and make their film interesting. The Harry Potter films are not hybrid, meaning that they are just purely fantasy films.
Isn't the film distributed by Warner Brothers?
It is indeed, Bulbasaur. Warner Brothers produced many children's films which have various genres like fantasy for Harry Potter, comedy for Looney Tunes, and action for Superman.
Why do Warner Brothers produce films like that though? What does this suggest about them?
This shows that the Warner Brothers like to break out from the typical children's film. For example, a typical children's film would be based on a fairy tale, and most of the time the typical children's films are animated, where a high percentage of Warner Brothers films are not animated.
How profitable in today's market are these genres though?
The fantasy genre is very profitable nowadays, especially since the popularity of Harry Potter. In fact, the third highest grossing film in the UK is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, the most recent in the series.
But what about synergies? I mean, are there more than one company producing Harry Potter?
Why yes, Teddiursa. Harry Potter is a British-made film, but it is produced by an American company, Warner Brothers, to increase its target audience. This means the film is more popular, but loses its British distinctiveness, due to the film being produced by Americans.
But why did British people not make the film? Surely if the film is an adaptation of a British book, it should be produced by a British company.
A British company didn't produce the film, as this meant that it would reach a larger target audience. Whereas if it were produced by a British producer, the film would not reach the high figures and would appeal to a niche audience. Although again, this means the film would lose its British distinctiveness, such as humour and references.
Was there any convergence in the film? Was anything done on other platforms?
Well, Harry Potter is a heavily merchandised franchise. The films are obviously released on DVD and Blu-ray, but also games are released. This is usually on whichever platform is popular at the time. For example, The Philosopher's Stone was released on consoles such as PlayStation 1, whereas the newer Harry Potter games would be released on consoles such as Xbox 360. Other merchandise include toys, costumes, wands, etc.
Would there have been any issues with the pre-production of Harry Potter?
Well, yes. The producers can't play around with the narrative or the characters' personalities very much, as the Harry Potter series were a set of books before they were a film. Therefore, people who read the books before seeing the film would want the producers to give the film justice in comparison to the book. The characters and the narrative were already existing, therefore could not have been tampered with in an extreme amount, although some obvious changes would have been made.
Well, we all know it was J.K. Rowling who wrote Harry Potter, but did she write the movies too, or did they bring in other people to help?
The film was obviously based on J.K. Rowling's creation, but the film has producers and directors who put a slight spin on the original ideas, as well as having scriptwriters. The script of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was written by Steve Kloves and directed by David Yates. However, Rowling did have a considerable influence on marketing and the precise details of narrative.
So the films were just books before the films, they weren't anything else?
No, they were a series of very popular books. The popularity of the books did increase greatly after the film adaptations though.
Did the company ever get taken over by another, or use another company for support?
No. Warner Brothers have produced every single one of the Harry Potter series.
There weren't any issues with financial backing, were there?
No issues for financial backing. Other companies did help the film financially. Gold Press Films, for example.
What was the budget for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince?
The budget was $157 million, and backing for this wasn't difficult to come by, as the fame of the book series made it a desirable investment.
How much did it cost the studio to create the films? And where did most of the money go?
The film cost $157 million to make, which is $31 million over budget.
How much did the actors in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince get paid?
The lead actor, Daniel Radcliffe, earned $10.72 million. Rupert Grint, who plays Ron, got $9.45 million, and Emma Watson got paid $2.5 million.
What are the names of the directors and the producers?
The film was directed by David Yates. The film was produced by David Heyman and David Barron. Yates was suggested for the role, as he was brought in to work on Order of the Phoenix and worked on all the Harry Potter films subsequent to this. Heyman has produced all 8 Harry Potter films after retaining their rights, and Barron worked on projects such as The Muppets Christmas Carol and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Who are the actors in Harry Potter? Are they famous?
They are indeed famous. The main 3 characters are Harry Potter, played by Daniel Radcliffe, Ron Weasley, who is played by Rupert Grint, and Hermione Granger, who is played by Emma Watson. Most of their successes were after the Harry Potter franchise. These actors had to stay consistent throughout the series, as a lot of people had emotional attachments to the characters of the books. So any changes halfway down the line would have caused public uproar.
Were there any issues with the production company while shooting?
Warner Brothers had a few problems choosing a director to direct Half-Blood Prince, as they had a few directors in mind who did not take the role of the director initially due to commitments, and the fact that some of them directed a film in the series previously and did not want to do it again. Emma Watson was also not going to return, but then she decided she did not want to see another actress to play the role of Hermione.
Were there any script changes in production?
There aren't any obvious and evident changes in the script. Obviously things were tweaked around in the book.
Who were the main people in the production team, and what did they do?
The main people in production were the director, the producers, the composers, the cinematographer, and the editor. These are the people who sorted out all of the pre-production within the film.
The music in the film is really awesome though. Who composed it?
The themes were composed by John Williams, but the rest of the music was composed by Nicholas Hooper.
Was the soundtrack ever released on CD? How well did it do?
The soundtrack was released on a CD. The album debuted at number 29 on the Billboard 200 chart. Users who have bought the soundtrack from Amazon refer to the album as musical brilliance, and the themes were beautiful.
Was all of the film shot in a studio, or was everything shot on location?
Everything was shot around the UK. These various locations in Wiltshire, such as Locock. Other filming locations include Sunderland and a highland in Scotland, County Clare and County Kerry in Ireland, Surrey, Gloucestershire, Hertfordshire, and the River Thames in London. All the scenes were filmed in the UK with the exception of the winter scenes, which were filmed in Bajorley in Norway. Apart from Norway, these would have been very cheap locations, as they were all within the UK. As well as the filming in the UK reducing the budget for the film, it also adds the realism of the film being set in England.
Were there any issues with the special effects during the film?
There weren't strictly any technical issues, but there were lots of concerns with the creation of dead people, as the director did not want them to look too zombified. There were also issues with Dumbledore's Ring of Fire, as they discovered many ways to create this, although they took a long time. So the computer's graphics artist Chris Horvath spent 8 months trying to find a faster way to conjure up flames than the original idea of spraying propane and setting it alight.
Is there a great deal of digital convergence?
Harry Potter is obviously a huge franchise. It has a cult following. There is a website called Pottermore. Pottermore is a website where users are able to participate in interactive reading experiences. Users can move through the chapters and follow Harry, as well as collecting items such as potions and ingredients. Each member of Pottermore are able to duel with other users.
Was digital technology important for the film?
Yes, it was. Without all of the digital technology, the film would not have been the way it was. The technology created all the effects used and made the film look realistic.
How important are mediums like DVDs in the distribution of the film?
Whilst the film is in production, it's very important to bear in mind the mediums, as the film needs to sell well when it is no longer in the cinema, thus making more money as well as adding popularity to the films.
What was their advertising strategy?
Well, the usual commercials were aired on television, as they would be with any other movie. A trailer for the film was aired alongside the release of The Dark Knight. Warner Brothers and MSN ran an online Order of the Phoenix quiz, with the prize being a walk-on part in the Half-Blood Prince.
Who is the target audience for the Harry Potter franchise? How do you know this?
The target audience for the films are teenagers from about 16 upwards. The film is heavily aimed at the higher teenage audience, as these are the fans who grew up with the franchise and who have stayed loyal to the franchise.
Where and when was the film released?
The film was released in the UK on the 15th of July 2009. This would have been the time in the summer holidays for school children and teenagers, who are of course the prime audience for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. It was released on the same day around the world. As in most countries, this would be the summer holidays, or in Australia's case, the winter holidays. The film was originally meant to be released in November 2008, but it was pushed forwards to July 2009 despite being completed. This was because this would be perfect timing for the summer holidays, where children and teenagers were not at school.
Where was the premiere of the film?
The premiere was in Leicester Square in London, just over a week before the film's general release. The premiere was packed with many fans trying to catch glimpses of the stars, as well as the press being there.
When was the film released to DVD and Blu-ray?
It was released on the 7th of December 2009, a few months after the theatrical release. This would have been in time for shoppers to buy this as a Christmas present.
How many copies of the DVD actually sold?
In its first week of release, it sold about 4.2 million copies, which was a disappointing sales figure in comparison to previous films' DVD sales. The film was just before The Half-Blood Prince, The Order of the Phoenix, sold 6.9 million copies in its first week of release.
How was the film marketed online?
Well, there was competition which was created by Warner Brothers and MSN, which the prize was having a walk-in part in the movie. Also, in the running up to the film, Harry Potter would have featured a trend popular on the social networking site Twitter.
Is there anything special about the film's website?
The film's website is very exciting. There are video clips on the site, as well as sites being perfectly colour coordinated. The movie is very heavily advertised on the website. There are links to Facebook and Twitter as well as to buy the film off the website. The main image on the website is Harry, Hermione and Ron.
What does the film poster tell you about content?
Well, Bulbasaur, this is the film poster. The poster contains very dark colours, which shows that there are slightly darker themes in the film. The aspect of magic is made very clearly in the poster with the use of wands and the obvious stereotypical magical imagery. The colours make the poster look quite mystic. The poster looks British as the actors look typically British, as well as the fact that the background looks quite dark and gritty, which represents the times of Britain during the making of the film. Also, an American film's poster is typically very bright and has high contrast. The background in the poster is also very clearly London, as the big television screens of Trafalgar Square can be seen in the background, thus giving the film an English setting.
Are there any other ways which the film are advertised?
The film, as well as being advertised by movie poster, it would have been advertised on television on prime channels, which are the terrestrial channels such as ITV1. The film would have also had a trailer during the films, which were released before The Half-Blood Prince. A trailer was released for The Half-Blood Prince during The Dark Knight. It was also advertised on billboards, the radio, and in magazines. Pretty much all the different forms of media advertising.
What types of merchandise was there for the release of the film?
A video game was released for the major game consoles at the time of release. Poster books and sticker books were released for the younger fans of the franchise, as well as annuals for the next year. One of the more popular merchandising for the film was Lego. The Harry Potter Lego, as well as being physical Lego, was also a game. T-shirts were released. The whole franchise is very heavily merchandised. Merchandise was mostly marketed to older children and teenagers. This would be reflected on ratings.
Were there ever any interviews with the cast before and during the movie's release?
There were interviews with the cast. These were on talk shows such as This Morning. There are also many viral interviews which can be found, as well as the televised ones also being available on YouTube. The interviews were mostly with the main cast. They were also asked questions which would have been relevant for their character roles. An example of this is in one interview, Daniel Radcliffe, who plays Harry, was asked about Harry's feelings for Ginny.
Were any stories about the stars released during the production process?
There isn't a great deal of stories around this film about the main stars. The main story which was going around at the time of release was the death of one of the stars of the film who was stabbed to death before the theatrical release, but after the film was made. Many of the other stars paid tributes to the star. The star was 18-year-old Robert Knox, who played Marcus Belby. At the premiere of the film, actresses in the film were seen wearing white ribbons on their wrist as a sign of respect.
How was Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince exhibited?
Well, first of all, it was obviously a book, as it all starts off with the original books. Audiobooks would have been created after the books. A film adaptation would have then been created which would have been exhibited in the cinema, which then after a couple of months would have been released on DVD and Blu-ray, as well as being able to download online.
How did the film fare with censors, and how did they get that rating?
The film was intended to be a PG. Most of the film could comfortably be a PG rating. There is very mild language and sexual references, but these also would make the film comfortably a PG. The film is actually a 12 rating. This is because there is a moderate threat in the film.
Oh yeah, there's a bit where it's really scary and Harry and Dumbledore are attacked by menacing looking creatures which emerge from an underground lake. Harry is then dragged beneath the water. Sensitive children would not have liked that.
Oh yeah, and there's another scene where Draco Malfoy kicks Harry and breaks his nose. The blood can be seen on Harry's face. Although the tables are turned later in the film, where Malfoy, who is rendered unconscious, has several bloodstains on his white shirt, and his blood can be seen to mix with and cloud the water on the flooded floor. Malfoy, however, is soon completely healed by a nearby teacher.
That would have been so distressing for a younger audience.
This explains why the film is rated a 12.
The use of a dark art, obviously being magic, made it so that the rating could never be a U.
Yeah, and the fantasy film needs the magic aspect to be interesting.
Did the film get positive reviews though?
Yes, on Rotten Tomatoes the film received an 84% positive feedback.
What about the DVD reviews?
The film received mostly positive reviews on DVD. From the reviews on Play.com, the average rating was 4 stars.
Oh yeah, I've got a review on my BlackBerry here. The person says, I really enjoyed this film because it dealt with the relationship aspect of the characters rather than focused on action sequences. I would happily sit through 5 hours of this film if the book was faithfully adapted. My only disappointment was the final battle scenes where you experience the full potential of the young wizards and witches. The film did not recreate this. Being the 6th book in a series of 7, I felt like the Half-Blood Prince is pretty much a filler anyway. Thankfully, we are getting 2 films for the 7th book, so the action or character development does not get sacrificed for the other.
I found a review on the film. This person says, Yates and his technical team are the film's true magicians, taking the viewer's breath away with their cinematic craft, illusionist skill, and spellbinding wizardry.
I wonder what the public opinions were on social networks, blogs, etc.
It was very popular on Twitter. During the time of release, many film references were trends, as well as the fact there were many groups on Facebook relating to the Half-Blood Prince, which had many members.
I suppose a film which took over £100 million of revenue in its first year would have to be extremely popular.
Yeah, it was like the highest selling movie of 2009 in the UK, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It beat other popular titles such as Up, The Hangover, and The Twilight Saga New Moon.
Oh yeah, I asked loads of other Pokemon before we watched the film if they liked Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. They all said it was a really good film, which was very exciting.
Yeah, I did the same before we watched the film, but I asked what the film was like on Facebook. Some people said that the film was not as good as some of the other titles, such as The Deathly Hallows and The Philosopher's Stone. A lot of people said it was a very good film though.
A lot of people saw the film then. This proves how popular the franchise is.
Yeah, the films all had a very popular reaction. They're all massive selling films on their year of release.
That's right, and the style changed in Harry Potter as it got further into the franchise, as the audience were getting older. The films were getting darker, as this would have catered them into the interest of their slightly older audience, who have been loyal to the franchise since the very first film over 10 years ago.
How do you know so much?
Let's just say I have the knowledge of an Octal.